coming to our panel featuring women from all sorts of backgrounds discussing financial literacy, financial independence, and the importance of ESG in this day and time. My name is Disha. I'm the Executive Director for APM Capital. I'll keep this quick because I know the panel is running a little bit late. Just a quick little bit about us. We're a financial services firm registered in the ADGM, regulated by the FSRA, and we offer all sorts of products from OTC to all exchange traded products to all our clients, whether it's retail, professional, or small or large institutions. Our core values are transparency and integrity, which drive an unparalleled trading experience. We prioritize accessibility for all of our clients, offering immediate order execution and innovative trading platform solutions. Our mission at APM is to power individuals and institutions by providing transparent, innovative, and inclusive financial solutions. We strive to do this by providing excellent technology solutions, exceptional customer care, and we place a huge focus on education. I'm not sure if any of you have been to our previous events, but we aim to market ourselves and offer our services through education and making sure that the people that we are trying to access or the people that reach out to us are educated and are able to make intelligent decisions. Our commitment extends beyond traditional financial services, where we prioritize supporting women's financial independence and advancing ESG principles. We recognize that empowering women is not only a moral imperative, but also a key driver of economic and societal progress. To this end, we proudly champion initiatives that uplift women in this region. We organize events like this, which are tailored to connect and inspire female professionals, creating platforms for collaboration and mentorship. We have fitness days, which are designed to promote well-being and work-life balance, recognizing that physical health is integral to professional success. Additionally, this is our first Women in Finance panel, which is a significant milestone that we're hoping brings together leading voices in the industries to discuss challenges, share insights, and explore opportunities for women that are in the financial services sector. Our commitment to gender equality is not only reflected just in the events that we do, but also in the leadership that we have. Our board is more than 60% female, and we maintain a 50-50 gender ratio across the company. This balance underscores our beliefs in diverse perspectives and which lead to better decision-making and innovation. Our core belief is that all people matter. This philosophy drives our unwavering commitment to fostering diversity, inclusivity, and sustainable growth in every aspect of our business. We strive to create an environment where everybody, regardless of gender, background, or position, has the opportunity to thrive. By integrating these values in our operations, we're not only building a more equitable workspace, but contributing to a more sustainable society. With that note, I'm going to let our panelists take over and start.
One of the key areas of that is financial empowerment as well, which is why I have the honor and the pleasure of sharing the stage with these three brilliant women today who are powerhouses in financial empowerment. Starting with Natalia Ishenko, who is the ex-CEO of UNA Financial Group of Companies in Dubai, founder and CEO of Fly Invest, executive leader in global fintech and banking sectors with more than 20 years of experience, and is a Dubai FinTech Summit 2024 speaker. Then we have Dagmar Turkova, who is a co-founder and COO of Innova Global Solutions, VP at EWA European Women's Association, startup mentor skilled in investment readiness and cultivating strategic industry contacts. And last but definitely not least, Amara Shafiq, who is a chartered financial advisor at Skybound Wealth Management. Amara represents the firm's Women Like Us brand, dedicated to empowering women with their finances. So, welcome ladies, thank you for being with us today. So, to begin our panel discussion today, I want to ask you, can you share with us your insights on the current state of financial literacy among women in the Middle East? Let's begin with Natalia.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I think.
Good afternoon, distinguished panelists. Esteemed guests and dear participants, it is an honor to speak today on the critical topic of pathways and challenges to financial independence and empowerment. Financial literacy in the MENA region, particularly among women, varies significantly depending on the country. And however, some broad statistics and figures can be identified. So it can vary depending on the source of information and the year when this research was made. But in general, the figures show that financial literacy in the MENA region is generally comparable to the global average. And according to the S&P's research on financial literacy for 2023, the average financial literacy rate in MENA region is about 38%, which is slightly above the global average, which is good. And it is growing very fast owing to the initiatives which are developed by the UAE government. Among women in the MENA region, financial literacy is typically lower than that of the men by 5 to 10 percentage points, unfortunately, but it's growing as well. The reason are the cultural and social norms in many countries as well as UAE. Women in the MENA region are less likely to have access to formal financial services like account opening and especially credit, and especially for women entrepreneurs, which is disappointing. This hinders their ability to gain practical financial experience. But UAE have made significant strides in women empowerment. About 80% of adult women in UAE have access and have bank account, which is higher than the region average. Government initiatives such as UAE Vision of 2030 focused on women empowerment as part of any sustainability strategy, emphasize the importance of education and entrepreneurship among women.
That's so important. Thank you for sharing all of that with us, Natalia. All right, and what are the key factors contributing to the knowledge gap in financial education for women in the region? Are there any recent studies or data that you can provide insights on this issue? Dagmar.
Thank you so much, Alexandra, for the introduction. First of all, very nice being here. Welcome all here today. So, probably first of all, I would like just to reflect it on some points which Natalia said here, because definitely there is an improvement in the financial literacy among women in the region. Because the numbers from S&P from 2021 looked much worse than they are now, because before it was like 29% they had knowledge about financial literacy, and now and which was below the global average, 33%, but now they are even slightly higher. So we can see that there is a huge work behind that, but still significant gap remains. There is no question about it. So I would say that the women are familiar with, as you said, with personal finances, like setting up the banking account, insurance, maybe mortgages as well, but they need more education on the side of more complex financial matters, like, like running effectively their businesses, or investment readiness, so raising funds from the investment, or manage money well, because quite a huge wealth is now transforming towards the women, not only in the region, but also globally. So probably I just would like to mention few numbers here, which is from the 2023 UBS Women and Investing, with voices from MENA, which show that 54% of women rated their investment knowledge as a low, and only 7.5% rated as a high. So that we can see that there is a huge gap for improvement to educate women on the side of investment and also investment for female startups. So that's where how we can fill that founding gap as well to get more women in investment and to get more women in investing in others women. So another gap or limitation which I would like to mention here are the cultural norms and gender roles traditional, where often position men as a primary decision maker. And that's what, can have limited women for the exposure to financial education and knowledge as well. Another which I would like to mention here is probably the access to the financial education, because like in urban areas in the UAE, mainly the access that there are financial literacy programs or trainings. But in the rural and less developed areas in the UAE, this access might not be possible. And also, probably the financial literacy programs should be, and there is a limit for that, should be specifically designed for the needs of women. Because, if they are not designed for their needs, they cannot get the support what they need from that financial programs. And probably the last one, which I would like to mention, is limited access to business and financial networks. Usually the men in the Middle East, they get their knowledge on financial matters from the social gatherings or family talks. But women, women or daughters, they might have limitation in access, or they they are not seen as the one to whom the family should talk about. So I think the key is to have more supportive financial network and business network, when the women can safely get the information and also connect with the other peers or with the other ladies and investors, customers, strategic partners, and that what I think it can increase even number of women in the businesses and improve their financial education.
Thank you, Dagmar. It's very encouraging to know that there are programs available to help women in increase their financial literacy. But there is, of course, a lot of work to still be done. Thank you for sharing that. All right, now, what barriers do Emirati women face in achieving financial independence, and how can these be addressed within the context of the UAE's cultural and legal framework? Omar?
Nice to see you all. From a cultural perspective, I think a huge barrier when it comes to a woman on her journey to achieving financial independence is definitely, as kind of Dagmar had already touched on, is traditional gender roles. So kind of stereotypically, a woman should prioritize her family life. Therefore, she's never really involved in the home's finances. She's never really, been involved in understanding and learning about finances. So for females that are wanting to start that journey, they can sometimes find it can quite limit their participation in the workplace because they don't have the tools and the support to provide them with that balance of a work life and home life. Definitely in more male-dominated industries, for example, oil and gas, finance, engineering. Again, typically with females who are looking to progress through the career ladder, traditional kind of gender bias can also come into play here. So from this aspect, I definitely think we can see more incentives and policies in place to support women who are looking to have that work-life, home-life balance, more flexible working, better parental leave, for example. Maternity leave here in the region is quite far behind the curve in comparison to other countries, with the traditional legal framework of up to 60 days off, and with 45 days of those paid. So I definitely think having more policies in place to support women on that journey is super important. Another barrier I would say is access to capital. So females have 7% of the bank loans out there at the moment. And again, as kind of the ladies have alluded to, women who are wanting to start on their entrepreneurial journey and they need access to capital and funding, again, they can come up across a lot of barriers, traditional gender bias, again, and lack of financial history, lack of financial collateral, so they can find it very difficult to have access to funding. So from this perspective, I definitely think having more financial products available and accessible specifically for women will really help tackle that.
Thank you so much for sharing, Amara. And can you add to that, Natalia? Like, what do cultural, social, and legal factors, what role do they play in these challenges as well?
As Dagmar already mentioned, cultural, legal, and financial inclusion factors are very important. As for the social role, it was already mentioned that for some women it is very hard to overcome the social norms, especially coming from outside of the families. Despite high educational attainment among Emirati women, figures show that 77% enroll in higher education, and women make now up to 70% of university graduates. There is still a cultural lag in transforming this knowledge into practical experience. So ladies, they go back to their families, go home, and they continue to play standard gender roles, which is good, but without that balance. And if we speak about the financial inclusion, despite these challenges, the UAE has seen positive trends in women's entrepreneurship. There are figures that show that 23,000 of businesses are run by Emirati women, worth of 50 billion dirhams, which is huge. And women also hold significant public sector roles, with 30% in high leadership positions. So I think these advancements are supported by the government's effort to enhance digital financial literacy and inclusion among women, and it will grow and develop. So I'm very positive in that respect.
That is very encouraging. Thank you for sharing that, Natalia. Now, in what ways can small business ownership empower women financially in this region? Dagmar?
Yes, so as my colleagues here, Natalie and Amar said, there is gender gap pay, or differences between men and women in the workforce. So definitely the owning small businesses can be a powerful tool for women in the region or in the UAE to increase their income and help them to empower women to have the financial independence. So running a business provides women with direct control over their income and also work conditions. So she can actually much better balance the work-life, have work-life balance in her life. And also, for instance, women-owned women-owned businesses reported an average of 30% rise in annual income. So, so the increase of income can be there or may be there. Small businesses ownerships also allows women to learn new skills like 70% of female entrepreneurs in the region get new skills and knowledge or management knowledge, which definitely increase their career prospects. So, and they are more involved in the community and contribute more to the economy. Also, networking through their businesses can provide valuable support for women. And different opportunities, such as connecting with professionals, strategic partners, investors, or customers. So 65% of women entrepreneurs in the UAE reported this as a huge benefit to increasing their network and also knowledge, not only about finance, but about other professional areas as well. And finally, successful small businesses contribute to the local economy and communities. So, of course, the numbers are different and from different resources. But what I have, my number is that women-owned businesses in the UAE accounting about 20% of the country's GDP and creating thousands of jobs, which is quite huge. But despite all of this, in the MENA region, women-led businesses are less than 5% of all businesses. That's what I am talking about, MENA region, which is much lower than the global average. The global average is around 23 to 26%. Of course, the UAE is showing much better number. It shows around like 10% of businesses, of all businesses, but still it's below the global average. And the last number which I would like to mention here is that if women were as involved in the businesses as men, the global growth, economic growth would grow by 2.5 to 5 trillion dollars, which is increase in global GDP by 3 to 6%. So it's huge.
Very true. We're very powerful in that way. All right. Now, what support systems are crucial for helping women succeed in their entrepreneurial efforts? Amara?
So one support system, which I think is really crucial, is when it comes to networking and mentorship. So for women who are on their entrepreneurial journeys, to be a part of networks where there are other females who have been on this journey, who you can look up to as your role models, and that can really inspire you. Especially, we were talking about kind of finding a work-life balance, looking at other females in these positions. If she can do it, I can do it. And I think that's really powerful. And also, it's not easy to be on this journey. When you're in more senior levels, when you are running your business, it doesn't come without hardship. So I think, again, having those females accessible to you that can share their knowledge and that can even be there just to provide that emotional support is super, super important. Another aspect that I would say is education, specifically when it comes to starting your business. You have an idea of what you want to do, but you then have the complexities of starting your business, the legalities around that, running your business, marketing. There's so many different aspects that already on a stressful but exciting journey can really add to that stress. So having accessible, available workshops, seminars, online courses that are there for you to tap into, to get that knowledge, to have that support, again, I think is really, really important.
Very important indeed. Thank you, Amara. All right. What are some effective strategies for overcoming the financial, cultural, and legal obstacles that women face? Back to you, Dagmar.
So maybe I will repeat some of the points which you said because that's how it is. But there are several key strategies of overcoming this, which can be employed. So if I will take it from the point of view of entrepreneurship, in terms of financial challenges, it is crucial for women to find the right funding options from them, with grants, loans, or investment opportunities with angel investors or high net worth clients or venture capital companies. So definitely, it's crucial for women to have, and not only women, for all businesses, to have solid business plan and budgets, which can, help with the growing the business, but also it makes the business more appealing towards the investors. Another one which I would like to mention here is, for example, crowdfunding, which might be a tool for women to raise the money and involve the community more if they have some social impact startups. And definitely the joining financial education, as you said, it's crucial because it will give them the knowledge and skills they need to run the business if we are talking about the business perspective, and also their financial matters, and give them more smart business options. Definitely from the cultural barriers, I can probably mention promoting successful women entrepreneurs in the region, and to inspire and encourage other women, and also challenge the existing cultural norms, like that we should probably prefer more or put the family first, and divide between careers and any other cultural norms. So also on the legal side, and also as you mentioned, the joining support network, have a financial advisor, mentors, or legal experts if we are talking about the legal aspects, which again it can help us to avoid legal barriers and any difficulties with financial requirements like taxes, business rules, and so on. So I think also crucial is staying updated on legal changes, which again, it can get us out of the trouble. And and then the supportive network, as I said, and also digital tools. Use the digital tools for managing business operations, and also connecting with investors and other useful contacts for your business, or financial literacy or financial education.
Great. Thanks for sharing that, Mar. I love that you both have also mentioned the importance of networking, connecting perhaps with other women who can help you, help support you, and you can support them. Today's event is one of those examples. So I encourage everybody to make a connection today. All right, so Natalia, can you share some examples of successful initiatives or programs in the UAE that have empowered Emirati women to overcome financial, cultural, and legal obstacles, helping them to take control of their financial future?
Yes, with pleasure. So UAE has implemented quite a number of initiatives, both educational and also the tools for financial empowerment of women. So it is a Bimani sense. This is one of the first comprehensive financial literacy programs for women. It was developed by Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank. It covers essential financial topics like budgeting, savings, responsible borrowing, and future financial planning. The program is delivered through various channels like webcasts, roadshows, and an enhanced digital platform reaching a broad audience, including women. The other one, which I know that is ongoing, and also was involved a little bit into this program, Gaia Financial Literacy Program. It was rolled out by the Authority of Social Contribution MAN, and this program targets Emiratis, including women. It is a 3-month course on smart money management, and it aims to enhance participants' financial skills and contributes to long-term economic stability in the region. And there are also private banks and government banks specific initiatives, for example, Commercial Bank of Dubai's Budget and Track tool. It helps customers, including women, to manage their finances in a smart way. And similarly, Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank's Smart Money program provides the same guidance on managing income, savings, accounts, and they're very, very useful for financial empowerment. And as we heard before, APM Capital also targets products on women. So there are many programs, and I think many programs, educational ones and the digital platforms, will appear in the future, which will enhance women's skill in financial management.
That's amazing, the existence of all of these programs to help support us. Thank you for sharing. And Amara, what do you see as the next steps for advancing women's financial independence here in the Middle East?
So as a financial planner, I think it really goes kind of down to the basics of financial literacy. So ensuring that females from a young age have the knowledge and the tools to, get them excited and motivated and feel empowered about their finances. How do we do that? Through financial education. So whether it's kind of at a, school level, university level, but also in kind of corporate environment, having those workshops and seminars and courses available to your employees to provide you with information just on basic financial planning, budgeting, investing, I think is really important. Secondly, I would say, and I've touched on before, is kind of networking and mentorship. So I feel we need to see more women in kind of more leadership positions at C-suite level, and also female business owners. I know Natalia said there's around 20,000 female business owners in the region, but that does only account for 10% of all Emirati-owned businesses. So I definitely feel, we have more women and role models to look up to kind of empower the next generation. And also, it's equally important for those females that are in those positions to make themselves accessible, to be those mentees, to provide their valuable experience and, their journey with other females who are looking to achieve that position as well.
Thank you, Amara. All right, I think at this point, we will open the floor to questions from the audience. Does anybody here have any questions for our panelists? Don't be shy. It's a very supportive room here. No judgment. All right.
I have a question for you because you're a financial planner. How do you sort of take into considerations the differences in terms of risk appetite and preferences of investments, like between men and women?
When it comes to investing, there are a lot of factors to play depending on, where you should invest your money and what you should do with your money. As you said, for example, risk appetite is one, and how long you're looking to invest is another. If you're looking for something more long-term, you have the appetite to take a higher risk. Also with females, for example, you're in a position where, for example, if you're taking time out to have children, to focus on your family, so you kind of don't have the same benefit sometimes as your male counterparts. So there are kind of all different factors that you would take into consideration when looking to when looking at where you would be investing your money for your future?
Thank you for your question.
Hi, so I have a question. This is for probably Omara. So I am a wealth coach and I actually teach women financial literacy. That's exactly the topic of discussion today. And as a part of what I see from a lot of women around the region, is that women have smaller amounts of money as compared to men to invest. And they're looking for, and obviously they're not so savvy right now, and also because they're a little intimidated. Because of that, they don't want to put a lot of money together, and they may not have that. But most places which I see around here are looking for bigger sums of money to invest. And so these women actually come to me and ask me, where do we put our money? And how do we go about? Of course, there are some platforms which are online platforms. And then there are questions like, who's going to guide us? And if it's an online platform, is it secure? So my question to you is there a forum, or even considering that you're into wealth management yourself, is there some opportunities for women to invest small amounts of money?
Thank you for your question. I think there's this kind of preconception for that, to have access to financial advice, you need to have a lot of money, and that's not the case at all. Yes, females do tend to, on average, have lesser kind of funds to invest, but it's important not to lose focus on, well, I don't have a lot, so I'm just not going to do anything with it. Every little helps, especially, when you're taking into consideration time. Even if it's kind of a small 100 dirhams a month, it's still something. And, you can start with basic saving accounts, funds that are accessible as well, just to kind of dip your feet into the experience of starting to save, I think is really, really important. So there are kind of, even just like a basic bank accounts with saving interests out there. So there's definitely aspects that you can look at. And I also think don't feel, it can be a bit intimidating, sitting across the table from, a male in a suit sometimes when, it's a very personal journey that you're on when it comes to your finances, and typically not a lot of people like to speak about their finances. But just don't be scared to take that step and speak to someone for that guidance. I think it's really important, and in the long term, you will be thanking yourself for that. Thank you.
If I can add to that, not only women can also invest in, as I said, in other women. And here is the Female Angel 2022 the initiatives, which not only that you have to go there and invest, but they also educate the female angel investors how to invest. And you can invest with in a pool with other women. So I think that's another like you can do that step to find out about the investment into startups and support each other.
Thank you, ladies.
Hi, I have a question. I just wanted to know about how does the statistics and initiatives around financial education impact women of different colors, and what are the because all of you all have.
I'm sorry, could you hold the microphone a little closer?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I have two questions. First one is, how does the statistics and initiatives around the financial education impact women of color? And the second question is, for people who are starting out and who don't really know a pathway in the world of finance, do you know some courses that could help them? Or something that you think would be helpful for everyone, irrespective of what stream they are in?
I guess I will answer from your first question. In regards to kind of women of color, I definitely think, we've spoken a lot about culture today. So again, maybe in specific regions, it is more more kind of accepted and more openly discuss your finances, more openly encouraged to learn about your finances and be independent. So I definitely think that does have an impact of sorts on that.
Thing which is very, when you talk about the color, it's not about that. It is the independent interest, what you want to learn in life. If you want to save from childhood, you can learn how to save. So color is not a matter. And it comes from the day one you go to schools. There are all the subjects people go. So nowadays there is a lot of online stuff and all. So it's not easy for the people until you don't have a practical knowledge. So even if I say you go to the bank, deposit a check, do you know how many days it takes to clearing? So the value proposition. So it's not about the color, it's the interest. And then I say that every woman has a power. And power is, you're not giving power to any woman. Woman already is built with power. I was in one of the conferences globally. So the empowerment is the interest. What do you want to go for it? And then the people around, especially women, those who are in those areas of interest of what particular a woman is looking, that is the empowerment, how to remove her barriers in that particular segment, right? So I wouldn't give importance on color. Banks are open for everything. Practical knowledge is open for everything, right? So you just cannot become angel investor. First you have to learn from down what is saving account, right? How you make interest. I know there are some countries where you don't get a fixed deposit, right? So me from financial segment, I have taught many people what in Dubai, the foreign banks give and even local bank give fixed deposits, right? So we have to educate them. So I wouldn't give that point there. The women have to be of their choice. Maybe sometimes they say, oh no, sorry, my husband takes care, you know. This is a common question. So I wouldn't say any empowerment has to do the role over there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Do we have any other questions?
Hi, I think my question will be for you, Umara. It's not about the financial independence side of things. When you were talking about having mentorship and stuff like that, and rising to, for example, C-level exec, what would you advise once you get probably mentorship? What are the things to do to actually have that seat at the table at that level?
I think it's, like you said, it's really important to, start of all, have a mentor. Maybe that is in the position that you're aiming towards because they've been on that journey, they have the experience that's so valuable, they can really kind of help you on that journey. And also, for example, in the workplace, it's important to have champions around you, again, to support you, both female and male. It's equally important for kind of your male colleagues to also, you know, champion and support women initiatives. So I definitely think they're kind of the main points to help you on that journey.
And also, you know, like sometimes it's very difficult to find a mentor. You know, if you are at home or, you know, like you are not in the industry, it's difficult to find a mentor. Or at least it was difficult to find a mentor for myself, you know, when I wanted to start my own business. So I think it's great that you've done the first steps, like to come to different events, like talks, talk to other, as Amar said, not only women but other men as well, and open up the mind. And then, you know, you definitely on the way will come with the best source of financial knowledge, which is the best for you. Because what is good for me or what I want, you probably might not be in that stage. You might be in completely different stage of your life, and you need something different. You know, so I think really it's crucial to talk to other people, like meet professionals, and and get the knowledge and skills what you need at the time. And then, of course, find mentors and financial advisors. But that might be the next step.
If I may add, UAE has the Women Empowerment Council, so you can check on their website what events they have, what conferences they have, how you can network there, how you can become part of it. So this is also very helpful, and you can find a mentor from your industry or from your area of interest on this platform.
Thank you. I think.
Can I add a thing to this one, if possible? So the thing is that, to your questions, what I've seen is that for a lot of women who want to get into board positions and positions of leadership, they find themselves taking a back step. One of the main reasons is because they don't understand balance sheets, they don't understand P&L accounts, they don't understand the annual reports and the basics of finance. And that's something, and that skill is something which is very, very important to be at a leadership role. And that skill is something which a lot of people who might have, for women, they probably know many more skills. They're good at HR, they're good at leadership, they're good at many more things. But that single point of their not understanding finances keeps them away from leadership positions. And so the important thing is to be able to acquire that knowledge and skill. And I think that's something which I have taken upon myself to do that, to teach business finance to women leaders so that they can take leadership positions. So I just thought that that's a very, very important skill that people might have.
All right, thank you. I think that is all the time that we have today for questions. I want to thank you for your eager listening ears, and I want to thank our panelists as well today for sharing all of their insights. Let's have a round of applause for our panelists today. Romara, Dagmar, and Natalia. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to have a short coffee break for around 15 minutes, and then we're going to come back for our second panel on ESG.
When it comes to doing investments, but also when it comes to have leadership roles in the finance industry.
Thank you so much, Maria, and thank you again for this great opportunity, APM, and my fellow panelists. ESG is very dear to my heart. I think, people have different definitions for ESG, as Maria said. For me, it's the lens through which you make decisions. When you have to look through every decision you make, you have to think about the environmental impact. You have to think about how sustainable is this decision I'm making. And then you then look at the governance, parameters around the decisions you're making. In finance, ESG, we know that it's almost suddenly become a buzzword, how many ESG funds investment firms have, how much corporate social responsibility programs firms are running. And we still see a slight underrepresentation by women, especially in the C-suite. Luckily, I work for a firm, APM Capital, where the balance is, fantastic. We have more female directors than men. At board level, there's more female representation. Across the firm, it's a 50-50 split, as Disha mentioned earlier. I think, overall, it still comes down to education and equity. So once the educational aspect has been sorted, my fellow panelists have spoken about, how education really is important, educating people right from the start, from the homes. We then get to the point where we talk equity. Now, this is where cultural nuances might come into play, governance policies, government policies, financial regulation. We still see an imbalance where it's easier for a man to move to a new country and set up than it is for a woman. You move to certain countries, as a woman, you're asked for more documentation than a man is asked for. This is 2024. Why are we still discussing this? Why am I being asked for an NOC from my husband before I can open a bank account? We know some of these cultural nuances will not go away. I'm West African. I've lived in West Africa, I've lived in the Middle East, I've lived in Europe. So I've experienced cultural differences across, different regions in the world. And these differences, whether we like it or not, also impact how quickly ESG will grow within the regions. To open a bank account, for instance, in mostly the Middle East and Africa, for a typical female, if you're not married, you probably still would live with your parents. All the proof of addresses will be in your father's name or an elder brother's name. There's really nothing in your name. These are part of those cultural differences. When do we get the financial institutions to start to recognize that these differences exist? How do we make banking and finance equitable such that women also have the same access that men have? You know, in terms of education, we see so much more girls in STEM, in finance. I have so many mentees who are in universities studying business, finance, law. When they get to that point where they start to look for jobs or get into the industry, how do we make sure that government policies support that representation? In the Middle East, I think we're quite lucky that the UAE is leading quite, leading really well in making sure that government policies are taking into consideration those differences that exist and how we can be more balanced. I mean, this is probably, for women especially, one of the countries in the world where you probably feel safest. So, there are advantages, but we will not fail to call out some of those nuances that are still barriers for us. 2020, at the tail end of COVID, I remember, and now I'm going to talk finance. At the tail end of COVID, there was a report by Goldman Sachs, and it was looking at funds, ESG funds in particular. No, not ESG funds, general funds, investment funds across different asset classes. And the conclusion of that report was that the female-led and mixed-led funds, so funds led by women and men together at the leadership roles, outperformed the male-only led funds. Now we take it back to the scientific makeup of, or maybe genetics or the psychological makeup of a man versus a woman. The tendency for women to think very long term is, I think it's higher. I'm sorry, guys, but I think women think long term. They're thinking about the kids, the family, what's going to happen in 10 years, in 20 years. How do I buy A and make sure that the first child, the second child can still use it? We can pass it on to somebody else down the line. So the way we think is quite different. And when you bring that back into the investment decisions that are made by women, it just means that sometimes, or a lot of times, those investment decisions, long term, might work better. We look at it from a sustainability aspect as well. I know that suddenly I think there's the onslaught of fast fashion, which I'm not a fan of. And 10, 15 years ago, if you bought a top, you bought that top because you'd probably wear it for 5 to 10 years, except maybe, bodies change, but you would buy an outfit and hold for very long. And now we have fast fashion, mostly led by men, where, clothing's so cheap and then you buy it within 10 days, you can't wear it again. So, there's so many aspects to it, but in terms of financial decisions, again, there are lots of fantastic firms and funds. Fidelity recently launched a series of investment funds that are focused on investing in companies that are women-led, investing in companies that you're able to get enough statistics on how they focus on the ESG factors. You have Artemis Women's Fund, SSGA, that's State Street Global Advisors. They have the Women's Diversity Index. I know that a lot of times there's the tendency to turn ESG into, or are we talking gender, are we talking diversity? It's such a wide, range of principles and factors. But I think going back to my initial comment on how we look at things, for every decision I make, I have to take into consideration those ESG factors before making those decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Tola. I think we could continue listening to you for a long time. Very interesting. Definitely we have pinned down that there is a lot of work being done here in the region, starting from the academia, from British Chamber, from the private sector, also from the financial sector and companies that have funds specific for women. So there is a lot of tools and a lot of programs and platforms going on. One thing I wanted to add as well is the women's networks. There's a lot of women's networks available here in the UAE for different sector specific, but also general. Networking is one tool that is invaluable and it's free for everyone, for men and women. So networking is a tool that will help everyone advance and meet new people and explore new opportunities and learn about new opportunities. Internet, of course, is there, but it's different to the face-to-face communication as well. But now we have more questions, but I have to apologize. I want to give more time to our audience to ask questions or share experiences with us for the next 10 minutes. So if anyone wants to share something or they have a question, please take the microphone. Anyone? Okay, so I will ask a question then. So who knows what is the percentage of women in leadership within their organization that are working currently? What is the percentage of leadership of women in their organization? Okay, so next time you get invited or you go to a conference, you have to look up or ask your management to give you what is the percentage of women in leadership within your organization. And that question is for men and for women. It is really important to know where we stand. Like we know APM Capital, they're leaders in this perspective, their founders, also their boards and their leadership have more than 50% of women. But also we see in the Federal Council of the UAE, there is a decree, 50% have to be women appointed. So we have a lot of initiatives from the government perspective that are leading towards that decision as well. So anybody have second thoughts about any questions? Okay. Okay, yes, sure, please.
Yes, you've made the most of my research. It was just interesting looking at ESG in terms of investment. So for companies and female founders or whoever's in the audience today. So it was a PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers report. Said 90% of investors have rejected investment opportunities now due to shortcomings in ESG strategies. So like, as you were saying, there are examples of where it is just a tick box exercise, but genuinely now it is really driving the industry. So 83% of consumers think that companies should have ESG principles. So that's, your buyers, or whichever market or whatever sector or proposition you're in, they're starting to drive the change because they won't buy from you if you don't have ESG principles. 91% of business leaders believe they do have a responsibility. Whether they do it or not is the next thing, but still it's on the agenda. And what's really interesting from a talent perspective, we're in a really candidate-rich market here in Dubai. 86% of employees want to work for companies who have ESG principles. So when you look at the next generation that are coming through that are asking not just home life, work-life balance, but actually what are you doing? And I know through my husband's in financial services, he said a lot of his interviews for the graduate programs, they're demanding at that stage, early stage, what are your principles? What are you investing in? Why are you still investing in oil? But I'm really excited about the change that's coming through the next generation that are asking the questions that maybe my generation were too frightened to ask because they just wanted to get paid.
Yeah.
So ESG is really critical for companies in the future, and there's already evidence from a McKinsey report that companies that give attention to profits, revenues, and ESG can deliver 2 more points of total shareholder value. The world is shifting, and today we cannot have startups that are not geared towards tech. Okay, no startup will be funded if they don't have a big tech component, but also ESG will get more buy-ins because consumers are asking for it. Consumers are still not willing to pay more for it, okay? But if there is a company that's doing ESG and at the same price, they will pick the one that's doing ESG. And same thing as AI, same thing as digital transformation. ESG is also a journey. So by the time you start it, you're not going to get there quickly. So you need to start it now because all the companies have started it and they are getting ready for it in the future. Yes, I have a question there.
I want to start by saying thank you very much for the insight that you provided. This is the first time I'm hearing about ESG, particularly in finance, so I really appreciate it. A question came to my mind when you mentioned about tech and AI. And you also mentioned about ESG integration in a lot of the organizations. It's still something that's up and coming. And like you rightfully said, a lot of the corporations, they say that they're doing it, but whether or not they're doing it is another thing. I just have a question coming to mind regarding how do you think we can use AI technology to ensure that companies are integrating ESG principles more into their organizations? Or how do you think AI can impact ESG in totality? Thank you. It's for anyone. Whoever can answer, it's for anyone. Thank you.
I'll just take some points from my experience working in the fintech sector. If you remember when mobile technology started, there was a lot of apathy by the older generation and firms, and we saw a burnout of those firms where most of them don't even exist again. The Xeroxes and, some of them still exist, but the business, has really shrunk in comparison to the firms that really took on the mobile technology phase that was coming up at the time. I think it's the same with AI, where lots of us are still learning. I'm not an AI expert. I know how much good AI can do. I also know, there's a bit of negative aspects that I think the world's still trying to navigate. So I think for ESG, particularly when you look at environmental factors, where AI is now helping people get the data and statistics that they need that weren't readily available before, where you don't need to send people to certain regions to get information. There's a lot of AI technology in use to get those statistics. One of the major problems with ESG statistics in certain regions, Middle East and Africa mostly, these are the regions that I'm mostly passionate about, is insufficient data. So I think that's where AI comes in. That's where AI will help bridge that gap. You look at countries such as the banking industry in Nigeria, for instance, and in Kenya. For those of us in banking and finance, we know that those two countries really pioneered banking technology in the world. But we don't speak about it because there's no data. Mobile banking started in Kenya, for instance, with M-Pesa and the likes. In Nigeria, people were sending money on mobile phones long before it became a thing in the UK. But just because the data is not there, these are regions where data is just insufficient. Nigeria, again, it's one of the countries where you have the highest number of female banking CEOs. And I'm not talking tier 2, tier 3 banks, I'm talking tier 1 banks. You go into the agricultural sector, there are women leading. We've got massive industrialized farms. The sectors within ESG that we're not really looking at so much, female-led sectors, we don't have the data that we need. So this is where I think AI will really improve on the information we get from these regions. There's still people that you tell you live in Dubai and they're worried about you. They just don't know what's happening in this region. And you almost want to tell them, I'm safer here than in the US. So, sorry, any Americans here. But, so I think AI will help us start to draw out the information, the data that we need to drive ESG in the regions that we live in.
I think AI will help in the governance and the regulatory elements. So reporting is really key. So you have for example, health and safety, financial, legal, everybody knows what they can do and what they can't do within those boundaries. And I think AI's role for ESG will be having some kind of shared operative model that we can all work towards, and that will drive better standards and cooperation.
How many of you are leading startups here or have their own company? Okay. And how many of you are working for a corporation or a company in the finance sector? Okay. Right, about half. Okay, so in any case, these two topics are critical, whether it's AI or whether it's ESG. It is critical that you start experimenting, whether for your own startup, if you want to get funded.
Networking and coffee break. I hope you had the chance to meet new people and exchange phone cards and emails, etc. I'm Maria Fluda. I'm a sustainability consultant. I have founded my own company 3 years ago. I'm based in Abu Dhabi, in the UAE for the past 18 years. Prior to that, I have been working in the construction industry, so I'm a civil engineer by trade. But I'm also a board member and UAE network leader for a women empowerment organization where we empower women in the energy transition. So I would be happy to share more information about that later. I'm really excited to be here and with these wonderful speakers and role models. And firstly, I would like to thank APM Capital for this amazing initiative, which is there perfectly timed ahead of the Emirati Women's Day, which is in the 28th of August. The Emirati Women's Day is celebrated every year on the 28th of August, which is the day that the General Women's Union of the United Arab Emirates was founded back in 1975 and is chaired by Her Highness Sheikha Fatima bin Mubarak, which is the mother of the nation for the UAE. So I would like to introduce our speakers for today. So we have Katie, which is sitting in the middle, and she's the CEO of the British Chamber of Commerce in Dubai. Thank you, Katie, for joining us. We have Tola Denloy. She's a financial regulation and governance professional, an economist, a football coach, and a mentor. And we have Nada Sayar. She's a professor and head of ESG for Dubai, Mumbai, Singapore, Sydney campuses for SP Jain School of Global Management and a former dean of the EMBA. But also she has other roles and she wears many hats as well. Before we go to our questions for today, I would like to ask a question for our audience, which is concerning the title for our panel, which is ESG Opportunities in Investing for Women. So I would like to ask if anyone wants to tell us what is ESG, what are the initials ESG, what does ESG mean?
Environmental Sustainable Goals.
Yes. Anyone else?
Environmental Social Governance.
Exactly, yes. So that's very good. Usually I'm doing some sustainability awareness courses and I give multiple questions to see what the initials mean, and more than 70% of the attendees get it mixed up. So yes, ESG is environment, social and governance. And it is all the three aspects of sustainability. So Sustainable Development Goals is very correctly a big part of sustainability. We have two aspects of sustainability when we talk about sustainability. The one aspect is the Paris Agreement, which is the agreement that all the member countries around the world have signed in order to maintain 1.5 degrees below the pre-industrial levels. And then we have the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are set by the United Nations, and they are voluntarily goals that all the governments have signed up to. And this is what we are talking when we are talking about ESG. So here specifically today we're going to talk about women in ESG, and specifically women in financing, and how women are empowered and how women are involved and contributing towards sustainable development. So I'm going to start with Katie. And I would like to ask your perspective personally and professionally when it comes to ESG. So what does ESG mean for you and for your capacity as a CEO of the British Chamber of Commerce in Dubai? What is the activities are happening and how are you engaging with your members around ESG?
Thank you so much. Lovely to be on this stage with such an esteemed panel. And thank you, APM Capital, for inviting me. So for those that don't know the British Chamber of Commerce Dubai, we're a membership organisation. We're based on the British Embassy and we support over 1,000 member companies. So that's British companies and brands that support British companies and expats in the UAE. So our role is supporting the UK-UAE bilateral trade corridor and obviously just making sure that those employees as well as expats have a really positive experience in their life in Dubai. So ESG for the British Chamber of Commerce, we have this kind of compass, if you like, of core values in our business. So we're British, we're business, we're welcoming, and we have an ecosystem. And over time, I've been with the Chamber for 5 years. Over the time, ESG, and particularly around hosting COP28, ESG became more than a tick box exercise, and actually we felt as a platform for good, we had a responsibility to educate more on ESG. So in that core wheel, we now have a fifth element to it, which is the BCCD Green Core Initiative. And under that core initiative, we showcase great best case examples to educate and inspire our members. Because one thing that we felt that speaking to our membership, 60% are owner-managed businesses, that actually it was so overwhelming to even know where to begin with ESG, that we wanted to break it down and give examples of, you know, one example was happens to be a female founder company is importing elements of her product from Italy to sell here, and she's now manufacturing that product here in the UAE, which is just such an amazing example. You know, the carbon emissions are massively reduced. It's plays to the Made in UAE strategy for the economy. So we're sharing these examples so that it becomes a lot more accessible for companies to think, oh, I could do that. Or even taking the plastic off your magazine that goes out to all your clients. Or, you know, just we're constantly looking at examples. So our weekly newsletter has a permanent section, which is, you can do this, basically. From a governance perspective, which I'm sure you'll lead on to, but we're also making sure, you know, working with banks, making sure that the banks, you mentioned construction earlier, we have a construction business briefing. Every single business briefing that we have has an element of governance and risk and compliance as well. From a social perspective, I'm ESGC, so the C being culture and community. Actually, on a personal level, always been very focused on philanthropy and altruism, so it's always giving back. So even through my financial career at Barclays, I was always keen on volunteering. And I think that's something as well as a principle that everybody can do is not just looking at what's good for business, but what's good for the community. So the term here is business can do well by doing good is something that we're really ingraining into our members as well.
That's really amazing, Katie. So the British Chamber is not, it's basically a platform that shares good practices, but also gives free advice, let's say, for the members to see how they can advance on ESG, where to start, how to take good examples and benchmarking from their peers. But also it is embedded within also your corporate environment as well, but also as well as personal, because if you are the leader, it also starts with the leadership, so it cascades down, it never, you know, cascades from down to up. So it's very important to have the leadership drive this, but also being a role model in your personal life, but also through your employees and your members. So that's really great. Also, if you can just elaborate a little bit, how do you engage with different stakeholders? So you are having a lot of private sector members, I'm assuming, and then you have engaging with academia or with the governments, and you are educating or building the capacity and awareness of what is happening in the region, right?
Absolutely. So our stakeholders are members primarily, and within the membership we have British universities, chambers of commerce, our friends across the international chambers of commerce here in Dubai as well, different groups representing different nationalities. But we also, I personally have been into schools. And one, just before the summer, I was invited to speak to 2 classes in a very significant school here in Dubai. And they were BTEC students in business studies, and it was all male. I couldn't believe it. And I actually said to them, how do you feel about being in a classroom where there's no women? And they said, oh, we hadn't actually noticed. And I just got so frustrated, and they said, actually, you're the first female CEO that's come in to speak to us as well. So I know it's not wanting to replicate the information that we learned in the panel before, but it definitely hit a nerve to say where mentorship and role modeling is almost too late at that 15-year-old, you need to be going in earlier to help have role models for women to actually see that those courses are really accessible and really valuable for them in their long-term careers. So I would actually challenge everybody here, if you have the opportunity to go into a school or a classroom, even when they're really little, go in and just be that person that provokes somebody in the future to think, oh, I might do business studies or finance.
Yeah, and building on what the previous panel was discussing as well is the role of the family as well when it comes to women empowerment and financial literacy. So, I mean, for whoever is a parent and we have kids at home, it is our job number one to put this seed in their mind specifically for girls, because that's gonna be there when they start progressing and choosing their career and choosing if they're gonna invest or how they're gonna go about it. So it starts from home at a very early age, and we are responsible, all of us are responsible. Of course, courses are there and everything, but it's very important to start from home as well. Thank you, Katie. So talking about education and about the different, states of education, starting from home to primary, secondary, and going into university, I would like to ask you, Nada, what is the work that the university is doing around ESG from all sides? Because you are responsible and you wear many hats in terms of curriculum, in terms of corporate ESG, but also you're a mentor and a coach, and you have industry experience as well. So can you give us a bit of an overview from your experience?
So I moved to the UAE 3 years ago from Switzerland, where I worked 15 years at the University of Geneva. And I can tell you, when I moved here, the first thing that surprised me is that many people did not know what SDGs were. And coming from the home of United Nations, where everybody talked only about the SDGs for the past few years, I was like, okay, so no recycling bins were there. In my community, there were some recycling bins for paper, but then the truck came and they dumped all the trash together, even if people separated.
Yeah.
So this is, and then I am also a member of the sustainability squad of the Marketing Society here. And then my background is in marketing. So I was talking to marketers from the industry, and everybody was like, well, we're interested and we want to do so much, but we don't know what it is. We don't know where to start. And then COP28 came. So now there is more awareness going on here. But clearly, as an academic institution, we are at the inception of ESG and embedding ESG. So at SP Jain, we started 1 year ago with this position as the head of ESG, where we have taken action at multiple levels. So first of all, embedding ESG into our academic programs. And at SP Jain, we don't believe that, for example, ESG is something that is separated and should be a specific degree. We believe that it's something that should be embedded at every single level. So we don't offer like specialized degrees. We just have embedded ESG, same as with ethics, same as what we're doing right now with AI, in every single course, in the finance courses as well. And the idea was really to upskill, bring awareness, and obviously build those future leaders who are going to be ready for the industry and the transformation that the UAE is aspiring to achieve. The other things we have done is really engaging also with the industry at multiple levels, whether it's through research,
whether it's through a forum with the business, with the industry. So we are organizing something, sometimes our own roundtables, such as this, and inviting various people from the SMEs to come and attend and upskill. Because what we realized is that when it comes to big multinationals, they are very much equipped. They are bringing their ESG objectives and goals and tools from their home office in whichever country they are located. But for the local SMEs, which constitute 90% of the landscapes here and the startups, there is a lot to be learned. So we see our role as an academic institution is really to upskill. Through workshops, we also offer executive education courses, and we're looking to partner more with companies to really offer these courses to enable, to bring the level of awareness and also the understanding of the good use cases, because everybody talks about ESG, but then when we talk to people from the industry, everybody's like, yeah, we understand it's important, now we understand what are the SDGs, we understand ESG, but how can I make it work for me? So there is not enough use cases that are out there where people can associate with and really replicate and implement. So we're constantly reaching to industries. Let's write some case analysis. Let's showcase some of the examples. So whenever we have a roundtable, we ask from our speakers, please don't talk to me about the importance of ESG. Tell me what you did specifically and what really works that people can benefit from and go and then replicate. So thought leadership is one, engaging with the communities. And yes, high schools are important as well. So we do sometimes provide free workshops to high schools to also sensitize them. For example, I've provided to the GEMS school a workshop about sustainable project management. So they were doing these projects and then I made them, I brought their awareness that your projects can be about sustainability related topics, and this is how you can make it happen. The other thing we also do is that we do encourage women to do more executive MBAs. We have a huge executive MBA program with like 1,000 people registered all over the world. And what we realized is that only 20% of these EMBAs were women. So what we started to do, we realized also that a lot of women struggle after maternity leaves. So what we did is that we started providing scholarships to women who have taken a break for maternity leaves to come back and do an executive MBA with us. And pushing the teams for more women, for hiring more women. And I was very happy because despite our awareness and our efforts, it's still hard to convince women. I mean, whenever there is a couple, the male spouse always goes first for the EMBA and then she comes second. Sometimes we also offer discounts to spouses so to encourage also their partner to come. So, and I'm very happy that to say that the last two batches, 40% of our EMBAs were female now. So we increased it from 20 to 40%, and we try to sustain this 40% mix. So community engagement, also working on projects, trying to, at our students level. So we work at the industry level, but we also work at our students level where the young master students and the young bachelor students, we try to make them do some, actions within the communities like waste collection, visiting some sustainable plants, working on projects that are with the industry. So we are teaming with industry groups. Such, for example, I have the advertising business group now that has provided us with some projects students can work on. So the projects around circular economy, so various projects. And we do reach out to industry to try to embed more, to give us more projects for our students to work on so that we upskill them with these green skills.
That's excellent. That's great work. I mean, that's what we need to get to the next level. Obviously, ESG advancement is work in progress. It's not going to happen overnight. It's a journey. It's not a destination. That's what we say to businesses that they want to achieve ESG. It's a journey. You will never say we are there now. We don't do anything else. It's always a work in progress. And with that work in progress come the employees as well, come the students. So you have, like you said, there's a green skill gap. You need to constantly be on top of knowledge when it comes to AI or to ESG from a private sector or a government sector. It needs upskilling Also, us as professionals, we also need to upskill ourselves. And when it comes to us as women trying to get a leadership position or try to apply for a promotion or to change jobs, it always comes as a benefit when you are more educated, when you are more aware. So coming to Tola now, which has a deep financial background in regulation and governance and global experience as well. So how do you see women leaders in ESG investments, but all in the finance industry in general?
If you integrate technology, your chances of getting funding are going to be much higher. And you need to close the gender gap in technology as well, in addition to closing the gender gap in finance. When it comes to sustainability, women are at an advantage because women are showing more interest in getting into businesses and projects and roles that are more geared towards society and towards the environment. So and this has increased. Studies shows that this has increased post-COVID, post the pandemic, where women are starting to be more geared to supporting projects that are for the environment and for society. The only problem is that women are not yet at the top executive level. They are not at the top of VCs, so very low representation of women for VCs, and this is why startup gets only 2%, I think, here in the region get funding when it comes to funds for their startup from VCs. So in any case, starting to upskill and starting to experiment needs to be done, because the other thing you have to realize is Gen Zers, who we are teaching every day at SPJ, already master AI and already master sustainability. They are very much geared, they have awareness, they are well prepared, they have good communication skills when it comes to social media, they have Instagram profiles, they know how to take pictures, they know how to put videos together. And from my experience, because I teach Gen Zers, Gen X and Boomers, and Millennials as well, whenever I give an AI workshop in the class, my Gen Z students, with half instructions, they are there, they are doing it, they are done. Instructions become more needed as you grow up the age ladder, and you need to direct more and explain more and trial and error. So you have to also close that generational gap. So please, if you're not using AI at least half an hour a day, you are already behind.
Also, I wanted to add something to the question because we do a lot of ESG reporting, annual reports for businesses, and data is a big issue. So we have certain templates that we use to collect data from the companies, but specifically for first-time companies that report on ESG, it is although the data is there, is very tricky for them to collect them all together for environment, social, and governance. So first time we do it manually if the companies they don't have an automated system, but we try to educate and to inform the companies that they need to use an AI tool, which is some of them probably have a software that has this part that can help them collect the information, because transparency is the number one thing when it comes to reporting, specifically for companies who have investors and other stakeholders. Transparency is number one, and the data is there. We're not there to eliminate or not to show some data. We're there to show the data and show improvement. So even when we talk about carbon emissions and companies, we have, for example, companies in the mobility sector, and they are scared to report because they use so much diesel and gas. We said, no, this is actually to your advantage, because you are using now this year so much, but then next year we can show improvement and we can set KPIs or we can set governance to see how we can reduce this. So it is very important for the companies to understand first why they're doing this exercise and why they're doing ESG and how to use it on their advantage, on the competitive advantage in the market, because their peers are doing it, because their stakeholders are demanding it, or because the regulation will demand it in the future. So once we get the understanding, then transparency is number one, and then AI comes to help and automate this process as well and make it easier.
I would like to add on this that not all companies at the moment are using AI, but ESGs can still go on, you know.
Yes, for sure.
So I wouldn't say it is too early to take a decision that how AI is going to work in ESG goals, because ESG goals are independent, not related with precisely like AI. It is between this mindset, you know, and it is responsible for the all population, not only the companies. It's from vendor side, consumer side, and everything.
Yes, correct. Thank you so much. I think we are out of time. You have a question? I think one more question.
Sorry, this is more of a general question because from what I've understood, at least in the panel discussions, that all of you have sort of been involved with startups in terms of assisting them or being there or being a part of it. So do you think that there's any ways for startups to integrate ESG principles maybe at a more grassroots level?
Yeah, it is very important, as a matter of fact, to integrate ESG right from the start. You need to understand how. So there are many ways of integrating ESG, but the most effective one and the most impactful one is done when it's integrated within the purpose of the main product of the startup. So how is your product supporting the environment? How your product is supporting society? If it's embedded within the core of your products, and there are so many startups that are being invited every year to the World Economic Forum to showcase, for example, we have a startup, I met somebody in COP28 who said, well, I can make gold out of waste. And then he invented this startup where they collect all the waste and repurpose it, especially electronic waste. There is also one startup that I met here in the UAE that is female-led, where this lady, she decided to, she used to work in McKinsey and she had children, so she decided to quit and then the McKinsey and start her own startup. And she found that there were no environmentally friendly lunch boxes for the kids. So she started manufacturing this PBA-free, made of recycled plastic, very pro-environment. And what she was saying is that all the mothers, because she's a mother and because she thought of these lunch boxes for the kids that are environment-friendly, kids-friendly, now she is getting more demand than she can manage. And actually she ended up working more than she had intended to and not being as much with her children because of all this demand. So there is a demand for these kinds of products that are well thought through and where ESG lies within the core purpose of the organization. These are the ones with the highest business potential.
Yeah, and also from our experience that we see a lot of startups, they embed ESG in their vision and mission, even if they are like environmentally related, with environmental product related or not. It's for them to really understand how they contribute to the green transition and energy transition and the sustainable development goals. So it's not only about having it in their strategy or creating a strategy around it. It's for them first to believe and see how because if they are in front of investors, they need to showcase and they need to really see how that is going to happen.
I think also in addition to what everyone has said, I think one of the easiest leggings to ESG for firms, especially those that aren't production companies or investment fund type companies where you're more of a service provider. I think corporate social responsibility is very important. Where you're not able to produce products to sell, or your service can also embed, quite a bit of corporate social responsibility. The communities that your institutions are in, the communities within which you're established, what are you doing to better those communities? You could go into the schools, you could go into the vocational centers, there's so many sports institutions. I'm a sports enthusiast, there's so many football, rugby, swimming clubs. What are we helping to encourage, talking about corporate social responsibility within the communities that we are? So I think that's probably one of the easiest ways to start to get into the ESG space for firms.
And we're out of time.
So thank you for actually enlightening all of us for, on ESG and all of these things. My question to you is that, we've talked about CSR, we've talked about gender diversity, we've talked about ESG all in the same breath. Is ESG inclusive of all these things? The gender diversity, of course, because it's social, and then we're talking about corporate social responsibility. Is all of that a part of ESG? Okay.
Yeah, it is. So I would like to thank everyone so much for attending today. And if there is any other questions or if you want to talk to us, we will be available here after. Thank you so much, APM Capital, for inviting us.